Wait, that worked?
Ever since we were presented with this mysterious box from FNaF 4, box theories have become a staple in the FNaF community. A simple YouTube search reveals hundreds, if not thousands, of box theories, and, to this day, they keep coming. Making a video about the box has become something akin to a rite of passage for aspiring FNaF theorists. So slide on over Game Theory and FNaF, make some room at the metaphorical FNaF Theorists Roundtable because I've got my own box theory to throw into the mix. Or more accurately, we do. This is Charlie. She's one of my best friends, a channel mod, and the person responsible for my banner and profile pictures. She's also the sole reason this video is being made, having been the first to suggest this particular solution to one of FNaF's most hotly debated mysteries. She also isn't comfortable sharing her voice, so her lines have been voiced by Rytoast. Charlie suggested it's worth taking the time to look into other, more well-known theories involving the box, and I agree. The most obvious ones to mention are the ones from Game Theory. The first video they released on FNaF 4, just a week after the game's release, was FNaF 4 got it all wrong. While it doesn't mention the box, it will be relevant to our box theory. In this video, MatPat claims FNaF 4 is impossible, based on two lore assumptions that, nowadays, I'd wager the majority of theorists wouldn't agree with. One is that this is
the bite of 87?
And the other is that our nighttime protagonist is this child, having nightmares about their experience. It wasn't long after this theory released, just under a month, that Scott released his Halloween content update on Steam. It reads, "Now I want to talk about what won't be included, the box," going on to mention how the FNaF community found basically everything in the first 3 games, but hadn't cracked FNaF 4, even name-dropping Game Theory in the post. He ends it off with, "The fact that the pieces have remained elusive this time strikes me as incredible, and special, a fitting conclusion in some ways. And because of that, I've decided that maybe some things are best left forgotten forever." Roughly a week after that post, Game Theory released their first theory mentioning the box, titled, "Why FNaF Will Never End." MatPat retracts the assertion that the bite we see is the bite of 87, instead settling on the idea that the game takes place in 1983, not in a Fredbear's Family Diner, but in a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. He cites the FNaF 3 training tapes as evidence of a Freddy's having 2 Springlock suits. He equates the Springlock failures mentioned in these tapes to the bite, despite that not meshing with how Springlocks are said to function. They wouldn't have been engaged while in animatronic mode, and therefore they would have been unable to fail. This is the video where he makes the claim that Cece is the puppet, although a lot of people forget that he also mentions that there's a decent amount of evidence for him becoming Golden Freddy.
Well, there's a lot of evidence for the kid in FNaF 4 being the puppet, and I'd bet my bottom dollar that that's the solution that Scott intended. From a storytelling standpoint, more pieces actually fit together if the FNaF 4 kid becomes Golden Freddy and not the puppet. This would make our first victim, the one our FNaF 4 kid sees get killed, the puppet.
In the October FNaF Theorists Unite Take-Two livestream, something unprecedented happened. Scott dropped lore hints live on his website in an attempt to steer the conversation. This is the origin of the following clues.
In the FNaF 4 minigame, why would the tiny toy Chica be missing her beak?
Oh god, he said, what he's seeing in shadows is easily misunderstood in the mind of a child. Silence. Yeah, he said 4 games, 1 story.
Scott Cawthon, have you thought of who the security guard is? So Scott himself is throwing out, okay, so we have Beakless Chica, we have the shadows of, you know, what children see in the shadows can be misinterpreted.
4 games, 1 story.
4 games, 1 story, and now who is the security guard? Okay, have you thought about who the security guard is?
After the fact, Scott swore off ever doing that again. It seems his hints didn't steer the conversation in the direction he intended. For MatPat, These clues set his mind on Dream Theory. His video on that, FNaF, The Clue That Solves Five Nights at Freddy's, debuted 2 months later.
What if everything in FNaF was just a dream?
What does MatPat theorize lies within the box in this video? Why, Dream Theory itself. It's a metaphor for keeping it secret, lest the fanbase turn itself upside down. This would be the last time game theory addressed the box for a couple of years. But there's an idea that's missing from all of their theories at this point. Something that, today, is pretty widely accepted. Can you guess what I'm referring to? I'll give you a hint. The FNaF Survival Logbook releases during this downtime in box theories, with the next one coming just over a month after the logbook's release. 2 months after Pizzeria Simulator's release. That's right. Up to this point, the theories hadn't touched on Foxy Bro, Mike, being the security guard through all these games. Another thing that kind of caught me off guard was the fact that game theory hadn't yet considered that Mike could be having the FNaF 4 nightmares. I thought that surely, nearly 3 years after the game's release, and with the logbook in the mix, MatPat would have had the thought that FNaF 4 could be some form of survivor's guilt. But it's not in this next video. FNaF 6, What Was in the Box, does bring up a novel concept, however. What if the contents of the box have changed over time? This theory puts forth the idea that they've changed 3 separate times, based on each time Scott thought about revealing the contents. MatPat theorizes that the first planned reveal, in FNaF 4's Halloween update, would have shown the children's toys to symbolize where the ideas for the animatronics in the dreams came from. A security badge to show that Cece's dad was a security guard, a hospital wristband to show how Cece was rushed to the ER after the bite, and a shattered picture of the family to symbolize how this incident broke them. The next 2 of his suggestions are a lot more symbolic. He suggests, first, that the initial version of FNaF World would have revealed that FNaF World itself was the box, and, secondly, that the supposed final game at the time, Pizzeria Simulator, wraps up the loose end of the box by turning the concept into Henry's trap for the animatronics. On August 8th, in Dawko's interview, Scott was asked how he felt in regards to people's reactions to FNaF 4, and specifically the box. He confirmed that yes, the contents of the box had changed, and that the reasoning was because he was unhappy with how he'd presented the story in FNaF 4, saying it was, quote, too broad, and that there was no real way to figure out what was going on. He goes on to say that after he saw the reaction to FNaF 4, he felt he needed to craft it into something better. To me, this feels more like the contents changed not because the story drastically changed, but because he wanted to do a better job telling it. Some might say that Scott himself stated he's retconned something, but I'd counter that he said it was done pretty seamlessly. I've also seen this misquoted as, Scott said he retconned one thing in FNaF 4, which is just wrong. You can see the September 2017 post on the screen right now. Quote, "The truth is that I've done one actual retcon in the series, although I'm not going to say where it was. There have been other times, however, when my original intentions didn't come across clearly. In those instances, I make a point to clarify in the next game. That's not really a retcon, it's simply an attempt to guide the story toward where it was originally intended to go. I have to do that with my games sometimes as well. I used Sister Location to clear up a misconception from FNaF 4. The misconception, I think, is who we play as. Game Theory claims Michael is the crying child in July of 2018.
This all allows Michael to visit that place again, have the carousel be his favorite, but still die in 1983.
That his body is what's in the box in August of 2018, and doesn't confirm the connection between Foxy Bro and Michael until August of 2020. While all of these theories mentioned so far are interesting concepts, and certainly the best ideas we had at the time, I don't feel that any of these options fit with the overall story or the hints from the GT livestream. With that said, let me tell you what exactly I believe is going on in this game. If you're here, you've probably heard the evidence for Michael Afton being our night guard 100 times, so I'll spare you the details. But I also believe that Michael is the one having the FNAF 4 nightmares, not the crying child. Michael was the one who went to visit the other restaurants, while the crying child's head was completely crushed a little bit early for him to be doing that. Michael likely visited his younger brother in the hospital before his life support was shut off, leading to the hospital imagery in his nightmares. His guilt surrounding what he likely views as the worst thing he's ever done is seeping in to torment him further as he now understands his brother's fears. The layout of the FNAF 4 bedroom is just like the FNAF 1 office, with a door on either side, a single ceiling light in the middle, the iconic fan, and a phone, with the animatronics' behaviors and areas they roam even matching up with their FNAF 1 counterparts. These aren't the only connections the game has to FNAF 1. The phone calls from FNAF 1 play in the ambient noise during the nights of FNAF 4. All of these things combined imply that the protagonist of the FNAF 4 nights experienced FNAF 1 recently. Others who believe in Michael being the FNAF 4 protagonist have linked the timing up with sister location because of the weird stomach mouths, but I don't believe this was the original intention. When FNAF 4 was created, it was intended to be the last game in the series. At that point, we were meant to be able to solve it, and we didn't know anything about Elizabeth's death back then. I believe, because of all the FNAF 1 imagery and audio, that these dreams were had around the time of FNAF 1. Although this doesn't necessarily mean he hasn't already been to the sister location bunker. That would depend on where you'd place that game in a timeline. Our protagonist throughout all of these games being Mike actually helps to explain 3 of Scott's 4 livestream clues. What is seen in the shadows is easily misunderstood in the mind of a child explains why the ghosts of these kids would be attacking us even though we aren't the same person that killed them. It's dark in the restaurants at night, and they're frightened. 4 games, 1 story hints that throughout all 4 games, we're playing as the same person, and have you thought about who the security guard is a simple prod for us to figure out that it's meant to be Michael, Foxy Bro. The only one this doesn't directly explain is the one about Chica's beak, although that could have been meant to hint towards timeline placements. I have a possible future theory swimming around in my head that might involve the toy animatronics, or at least some previous version of them, existing earlier than we initially anticipated. If you want to get updates on what theories I have in the works, hit the join button below this video. You can also hop into our Discord server if you want to hang out with us for game nights, which are being organized by my friend Ballsfrog, or if you just want to chat. Without further ado, let's get to the main reason you clicked on this video. What was in the box? Well, as Gibby said in his video about dream theory being wrong,
like if I were to say, what's in this hat, and you guess a potato, and I pull out a potato, I'm doing so to dramatically reveal that you were correct. But if you say it's an apple, my response is going to be, no, keep guessing. And that's what I think the box was, at least until Scott decided to never open it. So whatever is in the box has to be something that visually shows that the theory is correct. So it being the puppet, or the Golden Freddy plush, those aren't answers, those are just things. If he opened the box and it was the puppet, if we hacked onto Scott's computer and found the PNG file he made and the puppets inside the box, what does that tell us? What is the box? What's the point? My theory is that the box contains things that Mike or Purple Guy would have locked away in shame or depression, thus serving a narrative function.
and I agree with that sentiment. So if what we were supposed to figure out was the identity of the player character, we need to come up with something that would basically confirm that yes, we are the crying child's older brother. And what could do that? I posed this question in a Discord call with my friends, leading to a joking back and forth until Charlie said,
Shit. Could also be the Foxy mask.
which honestly took a moment to sink in. Even though Charlie meant it half jokingly, it kind of felt like everything clicked into place all at once. I saw the moment we opened the secret Princess Quest chest and Help Wanted 2 play out in my head. A secret box hidden away with a mask inside. A mask that lets us, the player, understand who we really are. A memory we locked away. Remember, Jeremy? Remember who you are? What you did to Michael's baby brother? It might have worked the same way for Michael. locking away the memory with the mask. He did his best not to think about it, but when he saw the haunted animatronics and began to piece together the horrors that had occurred, it would have all come flooding back. His innocent, frightened baby brother, another young life cut short, but this one was Mike's own fault. That is, if we had pieced it together. We didn't, though. At least not in time to learn the answers for sure. I know Scott mentioned the contents have changed, but I think this was always the message it was meant to convey. Let me know what you think, even if you disagree. Heck, especially if you disagree. With that said, I want to say thank you to my channel members, Ballsfrog and Embrisk. Please consider joining us in our Discord server. I'll see you guys in the next one, and have a
terrific day.